Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Christine Biglin with St. Mary's County Library, and tonight we are talking to Barb Whipkey, the owner of Wild Birds Unlimited in Lexington Park and LaPlata. And she is going to be talking to us about solving all those problems that we have with our bird feeders. Welcome, Barb.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to try to hit on the most common problems that we tend to hear about. And I'll kind of go over those ones. And then I'll leave plenty of time that we can have discussions about those particular problems that you're having. So we'll definitely have time that we can discuss your individual issues that you're having. So number one is usually the squirrels. We hear that a lot, people coming in, the squirrels, there's just no way to defeat them. And I promise you, there absolutely is a way. Where I live, it's very heavily treed. Without our pole systems, I would not be able to feed the squirrels. So I have about 11 of the pole system, or I feed the squirrels too, but I wouldn't be able to feed the birds. After I defeated the squirrels, then I decided that I missed them. So I did start feeding them too. So I have about 11 of these pole systems. The key is the baffles. So a squirrel can jump from the ground straight up about 5 feet. They can jump horizontally about 10 feet. So what you have to do is set a baffle. And a baffle can look like several different things. These are the baffles we have for our pole systems. This is what a lot of you are going to be familiar with as baffles. They're going to look like this. Kind of looks like the little hat here. We carry this style also because this is made, if you already have a pole of your own, this is an aftermarket one that we have designed that you can put on your aftermarket pole. So here's the issue though. That baffle, the top of it has to sit about 5 feet high. Because I mentioned that squirrel can jump from the ground straight up. If that baffle is lower than 5 feet, that squirrel's going to jump above the top of that baffle. So you have to make sure the top of that baffle is at 5 feet and the bottom of all of your feeders is hanging above that baffle. So if you have the baffle at 5 feet and then your feeders hanging down here, you've defeated the purpose of that baffle. You have to also make sure that pole, where it's setting, that you don't have anything within 10 feet of it. Otherwise, the squirrel's going to climb up on that fence that you have there and leap right across it. So those are those magic numbers you need to remember. Your pole needs to have 10-foot clearance around it, trees, sheds, deck rails, anything like that that they can launch from, and then the top of the baffle at 5 feet. So make sure if you come in and you want to get a baffle to add to your existing pole, measure the height of that pole you already have. Unfortunately, a lot of those poles that they're selling in stores out there, that pole's only about this high. So when you hang your feeder from it, you don't have that 5 feet of clearance to hang that baffle and still have that feeder up above the 5-foot clearance that you need. So if you're coming in to get a baffle or going wherever to get a baffle, measure from the ground up to the bottom of your feeder and see if you have that clearance. Because when you put that baffle on, the top needs to be at 5 feet and the feeder bottom has to be above that 5-foot mark. So those are those magic numbers for a baffle to work. If you don't have that current pole you have, you're going to need to switch and use that to hang your flowers on. Or you're going to instead need to switch and use it with a squirrel-proof feeder. And we do actually have feeders that are truly squirrel-proof, and I'll show you those in a minute. The difference in our pole system, and you'll probably see it a little bit here in the back, our pole systems are much taller than the ones you buy in the average store. So they look pretty high when you look at them here. But if you remember, you're only reaching to the bottom of a feeder to get it down. So when you reach up there, you can grab that feeder and still take it down. If you think about it, I'm sure most of you can reach to the bottom of a feeder if it's hanging at 5 feet. And if not, we do have hooks that you can use to reach higher to grab that feeder off. Okay, but that's, if you're going to use a baffle, that's the magic numbers you need to remember. And then I mentioned squirrel-proof option. So this one is my absolute favorite. This is what we call the eliminator. It often gets called the terminator. We'll have customers walk in and say, I need the terminator. Eliminator is the real word for it. The way this feeder works, it's made of resin. So squirrels are too long to hang beyond this. When they hit this, it's going to close down. So once it closes, the little ports here are going to be completely closed. When you're looking for a squirrel-proof feeder, that's what you're looking for, is one where the ports are completely closed. So by them being closed, when the squirrel shakes it, he gets no reward. We do have another one in here that it doesn't completely close it. The squirrels will tag team. One's going to get up there, shake it out. The others will eat it. I always say that one slows them down. This one stops it. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're okay with the squirrels getting a little bit to eat, that one works just fine too. But when you're looking for squirrel-proof feeders, you want to look for one that they're not going to get anything. You also want to look for an option they're not going to be able to chew through. This one's made out of resin, so they're not going to be able to chew through it. This particular one I have had over 9 years now. It has a lifetime guarantee. So if something happens, you bring it in, we fix it, repair it for you right here in the store. Lifetime guarantee against manufacturer defect. So if you drop it and break it, it's not guaranteed against that. However, you can purchase the parts and we can fix it for you. And you would purchase those through us. The other plus with this one, blackbirds are an issue right now. You can adjust the sensitivity on this just by spinning a little cylinder here, and you can decide which birds you want to eat from. So if you want those annoying blackbirds out of there, you can make it a little more sensitive so that it will close down on those big blackbirds and only let your smaller birds in there. So that's another good option. Again, for the squirrels, if you didn't want to go with either one of those options, maybe your yard has too many trees, or you have a small yard, a townhouse or something, that you just don't have the space to set up a pole system with the baffle to work. Maybe you don't have that 10-foot clearance. Then we have hot pepper food solutions. Sometimes we'll hear, oh, I tried hot pepper before. I put the cayenne pepper in there and they just don't pay attention to it. I'm sure they don't. It has to be hotter than human consumption hot. This hot pepper seed has been treated with, it's been soaked in an oil, laid in a vat to dry, and then formulated, either bagged or formulated into cylinders. It is hot, hot, hot. The squirrels are not a fan of this one. On occasion, we will get a few that nibble on it. A nursing mama who is desperate for food will sometimes suck it up and eat some, or young squirrels whose taste buds aren't fully developed. But for the most part, the squirrels leave it totally alone. You can buy it in several different formulas. We've got it in a loose seed. You're going to notice the loose seed comes with a pour spout. That's for your protection. When this one was being created several years ago, I tested it for the franchise. They sent it to us in big 20-pound bags. We had to scoop down in there, and all those fumes and dust would come up. Trust me, be glad they put it in a pour spout for you so that you're pouring it away from yourself. We'll have customers say, man, I wish you had these in bigger bags. Trust me, no, you don't wish they had it in bigger bags. Stick with the small bags that you're pouring away from your face and your nose. You don't want that near you. That works really well. I use that in all my window feeders. I have several window feeders so that the birds come right up to the windows, straight in the window feeders. Also in my window feeders, I'll use the hot pepper bark butter bits, which is a suet nugget, also known as bird crack. You ever hear people come in and say, I needed 2 bags of crack? This is the crack we sell in our store. It's a soft suet nugget, and it comes in a regular or a hot pepper variety. But this is great right now. The birds feed their baby birds insects or suet nuggets. Anything with baby birds get all of their moisture through their foods. So any type of suet is great for that. So those bark butter bits are a soft nugget. And then we also have good old suet, like you're used to seeing, I'm sure. We have it in a hot pepper variety. I do caution you with any of the hot pepper, if you get it on your hands, wash very well. Don't rub your eyes. I preach it all day long. And at least once a week, I end up rubbing my face with hot pepper. It's not cool. But definitely, this is another one. We've got one of our suet feeders. It's a double tail prop, so it holds 2 of these. And we are going through the 2 of these about every 3 to 4 days right now. But I'm watching the other day, I looked out and there were 5 little chickadees on it. The parents are bringing the babies to the suet feeder now, and they'll just sit right there and feed the babies from there. And then there's a downy on that same feeder, and daddy's bringing 3 little downy babies to that one. So that suet feeder is going quickly. And that one's just hanging in a tree. But because it has hot pepper in it, it can just hang in a tree and I don't have to worry about it. And then another way, any of you who have fed cylinders, cylinders are a cool way to feed. These ones are seed. And that one also has the seeds in there, soaked in hot pepper, and then just formulated into a cylinder. And you would just use grab me that. Then that's just a feeder, something like this. That cylinder has a hole on it. You drop it on there and hang that out. Nice thing about seed cylinders is those birds have to work a little harder to get the food, so they tend to stay around longer and you get to enjoy them longer. But of course, if you had a baffled pole, you could get this in a regular variety rather than the hot pepper. And then bark butter, anyone who has used the bark butter, that you can spread it on a tree or put it on a feeder. Just use a plain old fork and go out and slather it right onto your tree. Just kind of leave the ridges like you would on peanut butter cookies. And that one also comes in hot pepper. And then a step up from squirrels. When I first set up all my pole systems, I put squirrel baffles on them. And then one day my house cleaner sends me a picture of a raccoon with her little butt sitting on top of the squirrel baffle with the feeder pulled over, and her just, it was actually a video, her just taking little bites of food right out of the feeder. So I had to switch all of my squirrel baffles out and go with raccoon baffles. So I always recommend to anybody, if you live in a wooded area, save your money and just go straight for a raccoon baffle. Well, a raccoon baffle is much longer. It's about 3 feet long. And it's going to keep both your squirrels and your raccoons out. You're going to put it still about the 5 feet, the top of it about 5 feet high. And it's going to keep both of them out. So even we often hear, oh, I don't think I have raccoons. I've never seen them. Usually we don't see them because they come out at night. The difference is when you have a nursing mama, then they have to feed longer into the day to keep up with all those babies. So that's when we start to see them during daylight hours. So if you do live in a fairly wooded area, you might want to just go ahead and jump the gun and get yourself a raccoon baffle and keep everybody out of it. And while we're on the subject of pole systems, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, all of our hardware is 15% off right now. And that started today and runs through the 18th. So that's any pole system things, baffles, any of the hardware stuff. So you don't need a coupon for that. If you're shopping online, it's good, or in store. Happen to think of that one. So that's going to be the key for the raccoons. Hot pepper works fairly well for raccoons also. But again, if they're desperate, if you have a nursing mama and she has babies to feed, she will suck it up and do what she has to. So really, if it's raccoons, you're better off using the baffle. Raccoons, you don't have to worry about the jump. They're not able to jump that 10 feet like the squirrels.
Oh,
If you really can't hear it.
I can hear it.
All right.
So with the
What do you
raccoons,
do?
it's just
I'm
the
sure
timing that you have to do.
I can hear it from the iPad.
Okay, and then one more that we'll often hear is like, okay, I stopped the squirrels, everything was going well, and now I've got deer eating from my feeders. So the great thing is you have our pole system. All we have to do is add this little 12-inch piece to our pole system, and that takes it up out of the height of the deer. So that's not an issue. If you've got our pole system, we can shut the deer down there too. So just keep that in mind, that if you've got our pole system, we can put that into it. Unfortunately, if it's not our pole system, there's not much we can do on that one, because that feeder then is right at their height. The only other option I could mention then is we do have a wildlife plan that the deer absolutely love. It is a cheaper plan. You could try feeding them off somewhere else, and that might be an option. Okay, so the other one, before I jump to that one, let me hit real quick on hummingbirds. The big one we hear is hummingbirds hoarding feeders. That is just their nature. The males especially are very territorial. They will claim a feeder as their own and they will guard it. The only way to prevent that is putting up multiple feeders and try to spread them around. Putting them out of sight of each other is going to be your key with that. So if you have one on the front porch, try to put one in the backyard, the side yard. Just try to spread them out so that they're not able to guard all of them. And that's going to also increase your number of hummingbirds. And one more thing I wanted to mention, right now with the wildfires, we're getting a lot of questions about how this is going to affect the birds. Basically the same way it's affecting all of us. The big thing you can do to help is make sure you're keeping water out there for them. You've probably noticed yourself, if you're out a lot, you need to drink a lot more. Your throat's feeling kind of dry and raspy. So making sure that you're offering lots of water sources. As dry as it's been, all of the wildlife needs that water right now. So offering bird baths and things at varying heights would be helpful. You know, low bird baths, a little pan of water. Don't forget about the bees. You know, add some stones to some of your lower flat dishes for the bees as well. Adding some of these moisture types foods, the suets, the bark butter bits, bark butter, things like that, because that's going to increase the moisture content that they're getting into them. The biggest thought is that it may push some of the insects so that they're going to be flying lower, which could actually be a plus for the birds. So you may actually start to notice some lower activity at your feeders because they may be feeding a little more off insects. So we're not really sure how it will affect them. We don't expect the birds to take off on us or anything like that. So the big thing is just to make sure you've got lots of water out there for them. And then the biggest problem we're hearing about right now, blackbirds. The plus is I can tell you today I drove past some fields and I saw some of the blackbirds out in the fields. So they hopefully will start to move away and move out into the fields soon and leave our feeders alone. But this has been like the weirdest winter, the weirdest spring we've ever seen. So who really knows what's going on? But typically, once the farmers start working their fields, that's when the blackbirds move away from our feeders. Once they're done nesting, the farmers start harvesting the fields and that they move out. So that should happen soon, but in the meantime, they're devastating our feeders. So what can we do? One of the big things is safflower. Safflower is a little white seed. You probably see it better in cylinder form here. It's a little white seed that has a very hard shell on it. Blackbirds have a gape in their bill. They struggle to crack that shell. So it's a great seed to put in your tray feeders and things like that, so that your other small birds can still eat from it. Cardinals and housefinch absolutely love safflower, so they're not going to mind it at all. You can also take a lot of your feeders you can add a cage to a lot of our feeders. We can put a cage on them, and this cage looks like it's a lot, but it's really not that hard to manage. So this pops off and you're left with the feeder here that you would just fill like this. Once that's full, then you just pop that cage back on the top there. So most of the year mine hangs out there just with the weather guard on the top. When I see those blackbirds move in, I just go out and drop the cage back on. This cage is an investment, but you're going to use it every time it snows and every spring when those blackbirds move down. So you're going to get your money's worth. Anything smaller than a cardinal can get inside that cage. So that means your starlings, your cowbirds, your blackbirds cannot get in there, but cardinals can't. However, remember I said cardinals love that safflower. So you switched and you put the safflower in your tray feeder. So your cardinals are just going to move over to the tray feeder. So you haven't shut them down. They're going to the tray feeder to eat. All your little birds, your chickadees, things like that are going to that feeder. Then we can also take suet cages and put them in cages. So your smaller birds can get in there. Your woodpeckers can still eat out of this because the woodpecker tongue is so long. They'll pop their head through there. Their tongue works kind of like a tool, and they can still grab that right out of there. Would you grab me that double-sided suet heater with the brown top? There's one more here that I absolutely love. On the very bottom, straight down. Nope, right beside them. Yeah. So this one I have had, gosh. Well, we have lived here in St. Mary's for 20 years and I moved it here with me. So that gives you a clue how long we've had it. So this one will hold 2 suet cakes. The key is you leave that suet in the plastic container. All you do is take the plastic overwrap off. You'll put 2 suet cakes in here. That by leaving it in the plastic, none of the birds are going to be able to cling and eat underneath. They're only going to be able to eat by going directly straight in. That's going to keep all those blackbirds from being able to eat. They'll be able to get a tiny bit from each of the 4 corners. Other than that, they won't be able to. Your downy woodpecker can get right inside there. Your chickadee, your titmice, all those woodpeckers can all eat from this. We sell so many of this silly little feeder just for that reason. So a lot of our customers have to use this one year round because those darn starlings, if you live in a neighborhood where you have starlings year round, they never go away. Okay, so I think I've covered everything there. So let's open it up for questions.
Okay, in the chat, there was one question about rust showing up on the parts of the pole system, like the clamps and screws. Is there anything that people can do, like as a preventive action to protect those?
Yeah, so you will get surface rust, and eventually you can get rust on them. They have a powder coating on them, but you can just spray paint them with a little, just wipe off the surface rust, and then you can just spray paint them with any type of black paint.
Okay. Is there any sort of squirrel buster for the tray feeders, or is that just for the cylinder feeders? Like, is there any squirrel deterrent in the platform type feeder?
Oh, for the tray feeder? No, for a tray feeder, you would want to use the hot pepper seed and then put a weather guard on it to keep the rain from diluting it, or use it on a pole system with a baffle.
Oh, I didn't think about that. If it gets wet, then it kind
Yeah,
of...
so anytime you're using hot pepper seeds, you want to make sure that you're using a weather guard. Can you grab me a tray with a weather guard, Chet? For those that were with us last month, I was on a walker and I'm still on the same walker. So that's why I'm twisting and turning you. So when I talk about a weather guard, this is what I'm talking about. So this is going to help to keep the rain from diluting the strength of your hot pepper. But the other plus is you're going to find when it's raining or snowing that the birds will continue to come too. So anytime I use weather guards on all my feeders, whether they're hot pepper or not, just to protect the investment basically. But yeah, something like this, if you're using it with hot pepper, especially, but like I said, I use them even if I'm not using hot pepper.
And do you have a recommendation for the best way to clean the finch feeder tube?
So if it's our finch feeder tube, hopefully the bottom pops off. So all of our tube feeders, both the bottom comes off and all of the perches come out as well. So with those, can you grab me just any of the tube feeders would be fine.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, that's fine because they all work with me. So with our tube feeders, the bottoms pop off on it. And then if it's a finch feeder, all of the bars come off on them too. So you actually have a complete tube. And then we have brushes with them that you can get right up in there to clean. And just a little bit of, actually, you can just, if it's our Eco Clean, which is going to have kind of a gray color to the tubing, those ones you can use plain water. If it's the clear ones like this, use a little bit of bleach and water, 1 part bleach, 9 parts water. And then be sure to rinse it really well. Let it dry and then refill it. But if it's, can you grab me an Eco Clean one too? And I always recommend the Eco Clean. So you'll see, hopefully you can see the difference, that this one is the Eco Clean. It's a grayed out. What it is an antimicrobial coating, helps to prohibit the growth of mold and mildew, and it's actually healthier for the birds. And you'll find that your seed doesn't gunk up in there. But with that, you can clean with just plain water in there. And then with the clear ones, you'll want to use a little bit of bleach and water solution there. But they both have our guarantee and come apart the same way and everything.
How often should you be cleaning the feeders?
We recommend at least twice a month, or I'm sorry, every 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, every 2 months. But if you notice that your feed, when you go out, if you notice that the food is clumped up, that's a key that you have got excess moisture in there. So go ahead and clean it. Or if you ever notice that you see a bird with a crusty eye, that is a sign of conjunctivitis, kind of similar to pink eye that, would go through the elementary schools. And in that case, even if it's the antimicrobial, in that case, we want you to use the bleach and water solution, the 1 part bleach, 9 parts water. Sanitize all your feeders, disinfect those, rinse them, let them dry, and then refill them. Just kind of take them down for a day, clean them, let the birds disperse a little bit, put them back up. Because just like pink eye in the elementary schools, it's very contagious. So we want to let those birds disperse a little bit and then put them back up.
Now, I think you've said before that the hummingbird feeders, you should not use the bleach solution on.
Yeah, so the hummingbird feeders, we recommend if you're changing them every 3 to 4 days or so, typically you can just clean them with plain water, maybe a little bit of vinegar if they're looking a little slimy. But other than that, just plain water is usually good enough. Our concern with using soap in there, hummingbirds are just so sensitive, is that if you don't get all of that soap out of there, is what it potentially could be doing to the hummingbirds. So we would prefer that you just change it more often and just clean it with plain water. But if you need to, a little bit of vinegar to cut through it, rinse it really well. Let it dry and then put them, or rinse it really well and then refill them.
Is that the case for other bird feeders too? Like you shouldn't use soap? Because I was just thinking, I usually like do dishwashing soap in the
You
bucket.
can use dishwashing soap on the others as long as you make sure you rinse it well and then let it dry before you fill it.
Okay. All right. That is everything that's in the chat for questions. So if anybody would like to just say their question, you can turn your audio on at this point and just ask your question, because that can be easier than trying to type it all in there. So yeah, when we have problems, Barb and I were talking a little beforehand, like they're very happy to help you solve the problems. They just kind of need as much information as you can give them for to be specific about what's going on.
And particularly those blackbirds, if you're having issues with those right now, if you can snap pictures of your bird feeders, your bird feeding setup, and just bring them on your phone into the store, then we can look at what feeders you have and come up with a solution, because we want to make sure if we shut down certain birds, we don't want to shut everybody down. So, we don't want to cage everything and then your cardinals can't get anything to eat. So what we try to do is look, okay, you know, we can cage this, and then we can put safflower in this, and we can put, you've got a finch feeder, great, so we'll put this just for the finches. And so it's better if you can, and we don't even care if you show up with your feeders, and they don't have to be purchased from us. We don't care where your feeders come from. Just, you know, bring us as much information as you can. It gives us more to work with. We love problem solving now. The team feels really good about it when, you know, customer walks out the door and they have solutions, and then they come back and say, hey, it worked. So, and our team, all of our team goes through a pretty intensive 3-month training program to get their certification. It's video shadowing. Any of you that have ever been in the store, I'm sure you've seen team members following each other around. And then after a while, you see a team member start working with somebody and an experienced team member shadowing them. So it's a pretty intensive training program that we put them through here.
That's great. Yes, you helped me out with my problems because they were eating me out of house and home because it was all the grackles. But, but you were right. They didn't like the safflower. So that saved me. And I switched to a different shape suet holder also. That helped a lot too. So it's got a lot of trial and error, and, you know, specific to your yard, what's going to work.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We had a customer stand one day, and they were next door neighbors. And the one customer said, my birds don't like the
What's the best way to clean a jelly feeder?
Oh, what's the best way to clean a jelly feeder, like for Baltimore Orioles?
Yes.
And that one you can clean with the dishwashing liquid. So because that one is prone to bacteria with those sugars in there, that one we want to make sure that you are cleaning well with some type of soap. Good question. And then that, you know, I don't know who has seen maybe the little Facebook post that's going around. So make sure that your jelly feeder is not something really deep. There are jelly feeders out there. You're not going to find them probably in any Wild Birds Unlimited stores, I hope. You're definitely not going to find them in mine, but there are some out there that are like tubes that the birds go down in to get the jelly. So if you think about it, they have the same similar feeders with peanut butter. So you think about it, when you're getting to the bottom of the jar of peanut butter and getting that out, what happens when your hand goes in there? Well, the same thing happens with this style of feeder. If the bird has to go in there, they're getting this stuff on their feathers. So make sure any jelly feeders that you're using are shallow little dishes, and you're putting a small amount of jelly in it, and you're changing it daily. You know, that you're feeding that jelly most likely this time of year in the heat of the summer. So if the rule of thumb is, if you wouldn't eat it, don't feed it to them. So, you know, if that jelly's been sitting out there for a couple days, get it out of there. You know, just put a little teaspoon or so of jelly out there, what they're going to eat in a day. So, but the Facebook post that's going around shows hummingbirds that have gotten into the jelly.
Female Oriole today.
You had a Baltimore Oriole today?
Yep, female.
Awesome.
About 8 o'clock this morning.
Very cool.
I was just going to say, I had issues with mainly squirrels, and I bought your pole system, loved it, went back, and I have 3 now hanging across. Your people are very good about helping me figure out and how to build that system for my yard, and it is working beautifully. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you for that feedback. And I will tell you, in fact, my own self, when you buy a store, you go to the franchise for a week of training, then you go to another store for a week of training. In fact, some of you may have met store owners in here because we're one of the 20 training stores they go to. But that was the most intimidating part of my training, was learning the pole system, because there's so many pieces. I always say it's like the Cadillac bird feeding station, because you can buy it in a box, which is okay, but then it gets so fun to play with it and build and change. And I switch mine around like people change their furniture in their living room. Like seasonally, I'll get bored looking at it, so I'll move stuff around. And
Not only were your people helpful, but it's very nice that you have those setups in your store, because when I couldn't grasp what she was telling me, she just come and she took me and actually showed me the setup you had. So please keep the setup, because people like me that need the visual work great.
right, and we try to change the setups too. So if you come in and look around, always pay attention, because we're constantly changing the setups to give new ideas. But if you're thinking about something, we'll build it right here with you in the store to build what you're looking for, to make sure that you know what it's going to look like when you get home. But like I said, if you just want it in the box, we have it in the box too. And a lot of people will start that way. It's funny, we can always tell the engineers, because they come in and they are not taking it out of here in a box. It is not going out our door in a box. They have got to build it themselves.
Yeah, I know when I first got mine, like you had the book that explains, you know, the 5 feet and the 10 feet. And one thing I didn't do at first, which we had to fix, was we didn't trim the branches above the feeder 10 feet back at first, because they still like drop down onto it.
Yeah, so if it's branches above, you need 13 feet, because they use those branches above like trampolines. So if it's above, you need 13 feet.
Mm. And it's nice how you can keep adding to the pole system, you know, so
It is, yeah.
grow with you.
And so we've got a new piece. It was out before. We sold the heck out of it. In fact, last year at our annual conference, they had me talk about it, and I was like, why am I talking about it? You did away with it. And they said, yeah, but you have whined long enough. We're bringing it back. We're making it over and we're bringing it back. So go ahead and share with everybody how much you love this piece. So for those that have the pole system, what it is at the top where you have the little bird finial, it's a finial and it has like this upright piece, and then you put a cylinder on the top. So I have, what do we have, 2 at home? 3 at home, 3 of those at home. And we get so many big birds on that. So we always use the big cylinders on them. But this year we even had a northern flicker coming to it nonstop. And you don't often see those here in our area on feeding systems. And I'm assuming because it was so high and he wasn't having to intermingle so much with the other smaller songbirds is what made him comfortable enough to come to that. But he was nonstop, and one of the other girls had the same thing with one coming. So that should be out by the end of June. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, obviously not at my feeder, but in my yard, I've had some pileated woodpeckers.
Awesome. Nice.
Is that the right way to say it? Because I had always thought it was.
You can. That is one you can say either way. You can say pileated or pileated. There is no right or wrong way on that one.
Oh, okay, good. I wasn't wrong.
Yep. Yep. Nope. I love words like that.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody can be right.
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess that's covered everybody's questions who wanted to comment. Our next program is going to be on July 6th at the same time, 6:30 on a Thursday night. And the topic is the top 20 birds of Southern Maryland, who they are and how to get them to your yard. I did record this, and I'll be sending an email out to everyone who registered either tomorrow or on Monday, and we'll have a link to the recording there, as well as registration for the next program. So I think if that's everything, we'll just say good night. Thank you so much, Barb. It's always great learning from you. Okay,
Yeah.
and thanks to all of you who were able to come tonight.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.